Hi everybody, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Iain Sharp, Principal Technologist at ATIS, and I'm going to be the moderator for the webinar on 3GPP Release 19 and 6G planning today. So on behalf of ATIS, I'd like to welcome you today. For those that don't know, ATIS is the North American organizational partner for 3GPP. And we're so pleased to support this global partnership and to coordinate the representation of regional interests in the work of 3GPP. We are going to be recording the webinar today, and we will provide access to the slides and the recording after the webinar for people who are registered. And we will also be putting the recording online for general access. We are very privileged today to be joined by two very prominent contributors to the work of 3GPP. Speaking about RAN-related topics, we have Wanshi Chen from Qualcomm, who is the chair of the 3GPP RAN Plenary. And talking about system topics, we have Puneet Jain from Intel, who is chair of the 3GPP System Architecture Group. And thank you very much, Wanshi and Puneet, for joining us today. We really appreciate your work and your expertise and your contribution to the work of 3GPP. So without further ado, I'd like to hand you over to Wanshi to talk us through the RAN materials. So over to you, Wanshi.
All right, thank you. I hope you guys can hear me well. So it's really an honor and pleasure to be here to give you an update on 3GPP RAN. We'll look at the current status and also talk about what we are looking for beyond the current status. Let's move to the next slide, please. Next slide. Yes, so here's the outline of my presentation. We'll start with a quick overview. We did some release 18 plan before, so I'd like to give a very quick recap for release 18. Then we'll look at this 19 in more detail to see what's going on with all the project we just proved in the last couple quarters. And then we'll look at this also 6G discussion as was initially done in 3GPP on the RAN side. Next slide, please. Next. Yeah, so here is just a quick overview of how it stands in terms of 5G and 5G Advanced in 3GPP. So we started 5G in release 15. This almost 7 years ago somehow. This is the first release for 5G, which was critical to lay off a solid foundation for 5G. Of course, primarily focused on EMBB at the beginning. And then we expand this 5G to different vertical domains, starting from release 16, and then further to have the expansion in release 17. And now we're now in the second phase of 5G, which I started in release 18 a couple of years ago. This is called the 5G Advanced, in which we have not only we have some projects targeting immediate commercial needs, also have some long-term thoughts behind all the project management. Now we're at release 19. We just got started actually, and then hopefully things goes as we planned, and then sometime next year we're expecting to see further evolution starting from release 20. Next slide, please. This just give you a overview of the timeline we had for release 18, and also we plan to have release 19. And you can see that we just finished release 18 in terms of so-called functional freeze in round 1 in September last year. And then we have this 3-month staggering for round 2, round 3, round 4, with functional freeze last December, and then we dedicated 1 quarter to further stabilize those locations. And in round 1 started this 19 work in the first quarter. And round 2, round 3, round 4 will start with 19 starting from actually 2 weeks from now. Then the so-called SN freeze is targeted for June this year. Everything on track, it looking good. And for this 19, the overall duration is 18 months per the current schedule. Okay, next slide. And then next. I just like to give you a quick recap what we had for this 18. This is the first release of 5G Advanced. We are driving a balanced 5G evolution. This balancing is in terms of mobile band evolution versus first vertical expansion. We're addressing more than just the traditional EMBB industries. And also we have projects targeting not just in immediate commercial needs, but also with a long-term 5G vision in mind. And then the evolution not just on the UE side, also on the network side. That's the message or the gist of this 18. Next slide, please. And here just give you a quick overview of some of the projects we had in release 18. In terms of strengthening end-to-end 5G system foundation, we have MIMO for both downlink and uplink, mobile IB smart repeaters. We had a full release study for AI-driven. The data design is interface stuff. And then we also have enhanced mobility, evolved duplexing is basically a full release study also, and green networks. And then on the proliferate 5G to virtually all device use cases, we have this XR, the silent expansion, drones, of course, NT is part of it, red cap, positioning, and motor cars. You can see we have a really good collection of projects that targeting various areas. Next slide, please. And also next. Okay, so here is try to give a recap of on a high level what we have for RIS 19. On one hand, the message is quite similar to what we had for RIS 18. So we're still trying to further evolve 5G to further expand 5G commercial deployments to try to realize the full potential of 5G. And we still have this rebalance, as you can see, similar to RIS 18. At the same time, this is also released that we were still fully dedicated to 5G evolutions. Starting from RIS 20, I'm going to give you guys some overview later. We were not fully dedicated to 5G Advanced. So these are the reason fully dedicated to 5G Advanced. At the same time, we also like to start some projects to try to bridge the so-called bridging to 6G, or layer a good foundation to have a good start for 6G. To that end, we have this, this revolutionary system innovations, and also some new spectrum study, and also new enabling technologies. So we are going to give you some more detail later. Next slide, please. So here I just point out a few projects. I'll give you a little more detail also for some projects. So here just to show you some, let's say, major projects we had for RIS 19. Again, we still have MIMO. MIMO been there for quite a few releases. And then we have mobility. This, also a continuation from RIS 18. For topology, we have some new studies that we initiated in round 3. And then we have some MDD also kind of continuation for many releases. Then we have some new projects. One is ambient IoT. This is something quite new. We start with some run planner study. Now we're kicking off this run working group level study. And also this, if you see that the rightmost column, we also have this low power workout receiver is another one which is kind of new in the sense that we have started in RIS 18, now have the full item. And in the middle, you also see the spectrum, the higher band spectrum is completely new study, and also integrated sensing and communications. This is also a new study focused on channel mode for now. All these things is relatively new to 3GPP. Then of course we still have satellite evolution, which is focused on not just the smartphone side, also the IoT side. And XR metaverse is also something we're continuing from RIS 18. Duplexing, a conversion from RIS 18 study, and AI machine learning. This is probably one of the most critical project. Also, this is the actual largest project in RIS 19. So we had the project, we have a project not just from not just led by round 1 to continue study with 18. We also initiated some new study led by round 2, which I'll give a little more detail later. Network energy savings is always something critical. We already had some good things done in RIS 18, so now we'll continue RIS 19, just make sure that it's target to green earth. All these things are critical for long-term sustainability in 3PP. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide, which is that to give you guys more details about projects. So this is the list of projects we have for round 1 led. Round 1 is the physical layer, so it's talking about all the channel modulation, field procedure, that kind of stuff. So this is the project led by round 1. In total, is about 8 projects. We have the first. I highlighted this so-called study is more like full release study for the first 2. These we try to the primary purpose of the study try to investigate all the different modeling, evaluations, and different options how to realize things. So this is a very critical part to before the normative work in 3PP. So as this 2 study, as also mentioned, one is for the channel modeling, and then other one is for the sensing stuff. For sensing in particular, we're doing channel modeling for now. There's still a chance for us to check in September whether it's necessary or possible to further expand the study to include some techniques. There's something to be done in September this year. MUIT, I mentioned earlier, this is a very interesting project. There's a lot of discussions, and we have very ambitious goals. We try to do the study at Qualcomm level for 1 year only. So we already started from first quarter and target December to check whether it can possibly convert to a work item. They basically have the specifications for this topic. And this topic has target to have a harmonized design, have this kind of 2 types of devices, if you will. One is target very low power consumption. The other one is higher with active transmissions, targeting a few hundreds of microwatts. And the FDD is a focus area, and we have 2 topology in mind. One is more like base station to the text, direct communication. The other one have some intermediate nodes to assist the communication. MIMO is still an evergreen project starting from RIS 15, and it's fair to say this is probably one of the projects that also operator has very strong interest. So we continue to have some beam management enhancements to even have more CSR ports, and also this so-called joint transmission. Now to try to expand this into some other cases with non-ideal backhaul and synchronization, and also some other cases. Duplexing is also very interesting case. I think it's also somehow also connected with 6G. This is a case where the transmission and reception can be done simultaneously. But to simplify things, we only focus on this on the GNOD side, not on the UE side. And also the transmission and reception are done using different frequency bands, so they're kind of orthogonal to each other. So something we call SBFD, subband for duplex. This of course involve this is already been studied in RIS 18. Now for specification involve all the signaling, how to enhance random access, try to reduce the latency, all kind of different things, measurement, and also the necessary consideration for the so-called cross-link inference enhancements, basically downing to upping, upping, downing, the kind of things. And then we have machine learning for AR interface. This is, as I said earlier, this is the largest project in RIS 19. This is a continuation from RIS 18 study. Now we try to convert to the normative work. We have primarily 3 use cases in mind, 2 of which now fall into the specification stage, the management and positioning. There's also a continuous study for the CSR case. We have this 2-side modeling, and also there's also high layer aspects, which also very involved discussion regarding the data collection and how this should be tested in run 4, the working group doing all the performance testing stuff. Low power was and webcam basically means webcam signal or webcam receiver. I already mentioned this earlier. Essentially, we try to see how they can improve this power consumption at the same time, not to sacrifice too much from latency perspective. So that's the target. Network energy savings, I mentioned this is also important. We try to now expand to more scenarios to see how to further provide energy saving benefits. Okay, next slide. So this is the run toollet. Run tool is so-called highly molecular RC layer. For which we have 6 projects. Again, the blue highlighted one is the study. As I mentioned, this is a new user case we're initiating, try to see how we could use machine learning to further enhance mobility rate management. We'll focus on so-called layer 3 mobility only, and try to see how this real resource management should be done, how the event prediction should be done to further improve the mobility performance. We also have a regular project, regular in the sense of not connected to machine learning for mobility. This is a focus on, continue focus on this layer 1 and layer 2 trigger mobility. So it kind of relates to the view management somehow. And now we look at these inter-CU cases and also some of the more detailed enhancements. XR, we already have the good enhancement with 18. This is a continuation. Particular one field study is to look at the so-called multi-modality within UE to see how and whether we should do something to see how to improve things. There's also some very detailed enhancements like measurement gaps, scheduling restriction, deadline information to be used for scheduling, all the kind of things. NTN, we have 2 different projects as usual in Release 18. We have the one for the NR case. The parameter will be the downlink current enhancements and also uplink capacity enhancements, regenerative payload, and also red cap somehow. And then also have IoT. This is also continuation from Release 18. In addition, we also approved a project. The actual details still to be figured out, but on a high level, this will be multi-hop signing relays. This is primarily driven by some public safety needs. Next slide, please. This is run 3 site. We have 3 projects. The first one is kind of also continuation from previous releases. This has already been done for a couple of releases. Now we try to focus on some new use cases to see how error machine can be helpful on the network side. And then topology enhancement I already mentioned earlier. This is a study for now for 6 months. We focus 2 areas. One is called the wireless access backhaul. The other one is called 5G time to cells. So we'll try to do study how to see essentially what kind of impact we're expecting, because some things can be done by implementation, something may be done by using some standardization work. Some DT similar to iMachine for NG-RAN is also continuation and try to expand to do different new use cases and also handling some leftover from this 18. Next slide, please. And this is a list of run-for-led projects. I'll make it quick. This is, if anything, this is more directed to connect to commercial deployments. So we try to collect all the input from operators and the different other players and come up with this list. This was very fresh. It was done actually in March. So you can see quite a number of projects. UEI for base station, RF, NT enhancement, RIM, demote, OTA, for both study and work items. Starlink, this is one more in response to
Hi, I think we might have lost Wanshi's voice, so he's back in. Hey, Wanshi?
Yeah.
So I think we lost your voice temporarily. You were, I think, about halfway through this slide.
Okay, so you can hear me now, right?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah, sorry, so the connection not reliable.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we have this study for MT parameters in response to IT request, and also some other studies, special channel modeling, to see how to do the MU-MIMO performance testing stuff, and also this fragmented spectrum carrier to try to address some specific needs from some operators. Next slide, please. And then next slide. So here I won't spend much time for this. It's just a quick introduction of what we already discussed for regarding 6G 3GPP. Apparently, the momentum for 6G is growing globally. Here, I'm showing all these different 6G alliances that already been working on very actively on 6G. Next slide, please. So this is a quick summary how the 6G study has been done so far. Of course, we are expecting to develop an input to MT 2030 process for the summation process. We had a very first discussion in September last year. This is triggered by ITU liaison on this recommended framework. And then we have a high-level discussion in December. We even had a joint session among the CT, RAN, SA, all these 3 different TSGs, and we had another one actually in March to provide more details. So next slide, I'll give you some more details. Next slide. So we're gonna have the first TSG-wide, essentially for the entire 3PP workshop in March next year. Gonna be March 11th, 10th and 11th, Monday, Tuesday. This is very good timing also because as I reported earlier, the round 1 functional freeze for RIS-19 is June 2025. So it's kind of connecting really well. And then RIS-20 will be a study for 6G, while this study, we're gonna have a study on the RAN level and also working level. For RAN level, it's split into 2 different studies. One is focused on ITU because some ITU KPI parameters kind of things that we could help. And then we have the general study. So these are the 2 different studies, but there's quite some connection for sure. Okay, next slide, please. And this is the more detail about the working level study in RIS-20. We still expecting to have a 5G advanced in RIS-20 to further expand the commercial needs. These still target 18 months, similar to RIS-19. But then for 6G study in particular, this is going to be full RIS study, so we're not going to have so-called functional freeze in RAN. So this will be 21 months, and this will start in the 3rd quarter of 2025. The approval will be done in June. That will start in 3rd quarter. Round 1, this is for round 1. Round 2, round 3, round 4 will be just a one quarter staggering. And then RIS-21 is expected to be the one to have the actual normative work, and also the one to be used to have the submission to MT 2030. Different from 5G, if you recall in 5G, the first release will have multiple drops, actually 3 drops. But for 6G, we don't plan to do that. It will be a single drop for RIS-21. But the detailed timeline, whether it's going to be 18 or 21 or 24 or even longer releases for RIS-21, that's something still to be seen. We need to do a lot of study and to make sure that the interest level and all the the 6G should be very deserving to be frank. So that's something to be seen. So that's part of the reason why this timeline decision need to wait a little bit, but we will wait no later than June 2026. And the S1.1 freeze is expected to be no earlier than March 2029. If you move to the next slide, please, I'll show you just some more like summary of these different dates from a RAM perspective. As I said, top level you can see the 5G advance, which is still planned to further enhance RIS-20. It's going to be 18 months as currently planned. And the 6G study will be 21 months. You can see the round 1, round 2 thing with staggering, and also RAM permanent study until June 2026, this normal study, and a workshop in March 2025. I think that's all I have. Yeah, thanks a lot. So I hand it to you, Puneet.
Yeah, thank you very much, Wanshi. Hello, everyone. My name is Puneet Jain, and I'm 3GPP SA Chair. And today I'm going to talk about the system architecture and core network enhancement for 3GPP release 19, and also briefly talk about 6G planning and associated timeline. Let me first also start thanking ATIS and Iain for this opportunity, and really appreciate having this discussion. Next slide, please. So as we know that release 18 is the first release for 5G Advanced. It aims to expand the market reach of 5G technology by adding new features such as AI and extended reality XR to enable highly intelligent network solutions that can support wider variety of use cases. At the same time, release 18 was also addressing additional requirements for mobile operators and verticals such as EMBB and URLLC enhancements, public safety and mission critical enhancements, satellite and also IoT and massive machine type communication enhancements. So release 18, as you can know, is basically now stage 3 is fully completed, and we are on track to have a fully implementable release by June 2024. There has been a few exceptions, mainly from the SA4 side on the media and codec, but they should not have any impact on completion of release 18. The release 19, which is the second release, and now basically in the stage 2 is fully working on that one. For release 19, the key target date is December 2023 for stage 1, which has now been completely declared frozen. Stage 2 target for freeze is December 24, and stage 3 target freeze is September 25. The full ASN1 and core target freeze is for December 2025. Next slide, please. I think I covered this one. The main thing to highlight here is that on December 23, which was a meeting in Edinburgh, stage 1 has been frozen, which basically means no new functional service requirements would be added. And now the work is ongoing into the stage 2 and the stage 3 groups. Next slide, please. Let me talk a little bit about the release 19 content definition process, and it will help you understand the complexity and how various projects which comes for release 19 content has been prioritized. As you may understand, is that for every release, the content is much more than what can fit within the release timeline. Release 19 was 18-month release that was decided, and obviously, like any previous other release, the number of projects were too many to fit within that timeline. So the work started with the SA Release 19 workshop that was in June 2023, where the high-level scope and the themes for the Release 19 was discussed. And then two-step process was designed to define the Release 19 content. The first step was basically to identify the key topics and have a subset of Release 19 SID and WID approved by September plenary. And then subsequent, the full final content would be defined in the December 2023. And again, the key target is to have a release 19 completed by December 2025. Next slide, please. So this was the part of the first step, which was basically to have identify the key, core, and miscellaneous topics for inclusion in release 19. So what you see on the screen was that there were 17 core topics that were identified and 15 miscellaneous topics. By core topic, I means is these are the topics that came through the workshop presentation where companies have a broader interest, while the miscellaneous topic was there was a selective interest from the companies. So it was mainly in terms of broader interest, which categorize these topics into core versus the miscellaneous. On the 17 topics during the discussion through the moderated emails, the one which you see in the green denotes the topics that for which the study items was agreed in the September 2023 plenary. Cyan are the topics which was denoted to be discussed further and will come back in the December 23 for approval, while the remaining topic was decided to be not part of the release 19 content. Next slide, please. So this was basically a second step. So after lengthy offline and online discussions, there was a proposal to have a compromise on release 19 content. This compromise was reflecting a balance of release 19 priorities from operators and vendors, and eventually it was endorsed. What you see on the table here is the 15 green highlighted study items that was approved for inclusion in release 19. So you have like a project like XRM phase 2, energy efficiency and energy saving as a service criteria. Next generation real-time communication phase 2, satellite component in 5G architecture phase 3, and so on. One thing to note is the project on AI/ML, which is a release 19 study. There are certain work tasks which has a dependency on RAN working groups, and the decision was basically this will be further discussed in September 24 once the RAN have made a progress on that. So for the time being, those was included as part of AI/ML study, but no work will be done unless we will have a feedback from the RAN working groups. Another thing to note is on the study on ambient power-enabled Internet of Things, ambient IoT in short. The work is also ongoing in parallel within the RAN, and the decision whether or not there will be any normative work that would happen on the SA side will be taken into account the RAN ambient IoT progress, and the checkpoint is basically December 2024 to make a further decision on that. Then there is a study on Cyan, which is only endorsed. There will not be any work until September 2024. Because as Wanshi mentioned, that there is a channel modeling work on integrated sensing and communication that is ongoing, and there will be a checkpoint in September, and based on the progress, there will be a decision whether to be progress on the study part or not. The three items which you see highlighted in yellow, these were considered for a small technical enhancements. So there will be coming back again, and they can directly go through a mini bid, and that's why they will progress within the SA group. And on the very bottom, you see the three projects in red. They were not considered as part of release 19 content. Next slide, please. So these slides gives an overview of the SA1 release 19 study item and work item. As I mentioned earlier, the release 19 stage 1 work in SA1 is now frozen. Most of the work has been 100% complete, and the work is now progressing within the downstream working groups like SA2 and SA3A. Next slide, please. So this is the SA2 release 19 study items, the 15 items that I mentioned in the previous slides that were prioritized. There is a fairly good progress, and this is the snapshot of the progress from the March plenary. What you also have in this slide is, some hyperlinks that gives you a study item description in more details and the impacted technical specification and technical reports. Next slide. So these are some of the release 19 normative TI-19 mini weights. So as I mentioned earlier, there were 3 items that were initially decided to be moved directly to the normative work without having need for any study. But then their SA2 further discussed, and there were more TI-19 projects that was approved in the last plenary. Again, you can go through these hyperlinks to get a more detail on the study or the mini weight descriptions. So we will not have time to go through the details of the mini weights. Next slide, please. So these are projects on the SA3 side. So for release 19, SA3, which is a security working group, has also agreed on multiple release 19 study items. Some of them are basically what SA2 has approved, and there is a corresponding security aspects related to that. But then there are purely, security-related topics such as like addition of 256-bit security algorithm, addition of lineage 26 algorithm, and zero trust security and things like that. So these are purely some of the security-related topics which does not have any dependency on the stage 2. Next slide, please. So this is list of the project from SA4. SA4 is handling the media and codecs, and in the last plenary they have several projects that was approved related to media messaging, harmonization of stereo and HV codec, and rendering over IMS and others. Next slide. So this is SA5 related release 19 study item and work items. SA5 is responsible for management and orchestration and telecom management. Again, multiple release 19 projects ongoing in SA5 as well. Next slide. Okay, last but not least, the SA6, which is responsible for an application enablement. They also have multiple release 19 projects ongoing. Again, you have all the details on these slides, and you can look at all the study item description for the details. Next slide. Okay, let me then switch gear and talk about a little bit on the 6G timeline. I think Wanshi gave a brief overview on some of the key agreements from the previous TSG. What we have currently is that, ITUR, as we know, has agreed on the IMT 2030 timelines. Within 3GPP, we agreed on some key aspects on 6G timeline in December, and then some additional consideration was agreed in the recently concluded March plenary. Although, many details are available, but we expect to discuss further 6G timeline in the future meeting, especially related to release 21. So on key agreement side, we agreed that there will be a 3GPP stage 1 workshop on IMT 2030 use cases, and I'm going to talk a little bit more details about that workshop in subsequent slides. There was also an agreement to have a March 25 3GPP wide workshop on technical studies in SA and RAN. June 25 is when the approval of SA2 studies on 6G will take place. There was also a general agreement that 6G studies will happen in release 20 and the 6G normative work in release 21. And as Wanshi also mentioned, that release 21 is expected to be delivered at a single drop, which means a single cold freeze. Next slide, please. So a little bit further details on the planning aspects. Stage 1 workshop on IMT 2030 use case will happen in May 8th to May 10th this year. And the first 3GPP TSG-wide 6G workshop will take place in March 2025. It would be a 2-day workshop. The details for this is further under discussion, whether it will be a joint or separate workshop across TSG, and how are we going to handle the contributions, and these are some of the aspects which we are still discussing. Studies for 6G will happen in release 20, and we have a next slide to give the more details. And normative work for 6G will happen in release 21. And as I mentioned before, release 21 is expected to produce one set of 3GPP 6G specifications, and will be the release for IMT 2030 submission before 2030. Next slide, please. On release 21, it will be on 2 tracks. One would be a 5G advanced track, which would be a release, so that would be a 18-month, assuming there is no delay for release 19. So for release 20 5G advanced track, the stage 1 freeze would be June 25. The stage 2 would be 80% or more completed by June 26 and 100% completed by September 26. Stage 3 freeze on March, and the 5G advanced ASN.1 and OpenAI freeze will be on June 2027. Then there will be another track on release 21 that would be for the 6G study items. SA1 study item, which is about the service requirements, would be approved in September 2024. SA2, which does the system architecture work, would have their study items approved in June 2025, along with the other working groups from RAN. Then the other working group in SA, which is about security, media codecs, orchestration management and application enablement, their study items approval for 6G is still TBD, and expected to happen a quarter or two later than the SA2 study item. Now, in terms of study item completion, this study may continue beyond stage 1 and stage 2 freeze date, which we see on the left-hand side for 5G advanced. So study for SA1 is expected to be completed by March 2026, and the architecture study from SA2 is expected to be completed either December or March. So this whether it will be December or March will be confirmed at the future TSG meetings. Next slide, please. So this is just an illustration of how the overall SA release 20 timeline will look like. So as I mentioned earlier, there will be a 5G advanced track, what you see on the top, and then the 6G study, what you see on the bottoms, and the further details will be discussed in the future TSG meetings. Next slide. So a little bit more details on the stage 1 workshop on IMT 2030 use cases. This workshop will take place from May 8th to May 10th in Rotterdam, Netherlands. And the objective of this workshop is to bring 3GPP closer to the ongoing initiatives in various global and regional research organizations, 3GPP MRPs regarding the 6G use cases. And this work is really of importance because SA1, as I mentioned in the previous slide, will embark on defining the service requirement and use cases for 6G in release 20. And that would basically come, the study item would be approved in September 2024. So let me go through the next slide, which talks a little bit more details about the draft agenda. So this workshop will be a little bit different as compared to the normal 3GPP meetings, in a sense that the presentation from 3GPP MRPs and the regional alliances and the global institutes like NGMN and ITUR would be through invitations. It's a conference style event with a strict agenda. So no company contributions will be handled, but as I mentioned, it will be mainly through the invitations. What you see on this screen is a draft agenda, and there will be a 4 panels discussion targeting the operator segment, the vertical segments, the regional research alliances, and then the 4th one is about the ITUR and 3GPP synergies for the 6G. And you can look at a little bit more details into the document 456 that provides you more information about the registration, deadlines, and other aspects related to the workshop. I think this basically concludes my presentation. So thank you very much. And let me hand it over back to Iain.
Thank you very much, Puneet, and thank you, Wanshi, for two such detailed and very thorough presentations of the status of the work in 3GPP. So we have a few minutes available for questions and answers. So I believe that people participating should be able to ask questions in their control panel. So if you have a question that you've already asked, please feel free to type it in, and I will try and get through as many as I can with the participants of the webinar right now. So I guess the first question that I have is probably for you, Wanshi. There's quite a lot of different RAN activities related to IoT in various forms. Could you kind of comment on the difference between the ambient IoT, RedCap, and the low power wake up work items?
Sorry, I think my connection just got bad. So can you repeat the question somehow?
Yeah, sorry. Can you compare and comment on the difference between ambient IoT, RedCap, and low power wake up?
Oh, okay. So yeah, I mean this IoT that I said is a new project we started with 19, but it is targeted to very low end devices. We're talking about a few cents, this kind of range. The power consumption, as I said earlier, well, two types. One is more like close to 1 microwatts. The other one is more like a few hundred microwatts. And the communication is for the 1 microwatt is more like a backscattering, not even necessarily have some active transmissions. But the 100 microwatt might have some active transmission. This is quite different from RedCap. And by the way, this MUIT mostly target in RIS 19 target for indoor deployments. Could be used for warehouse. For some other more like I won't say low end, but you see the point is for the kind of applications. RedCap is different. RedCap with reduced bandwidth, reduced capability, but it still has a much more capable. It can be used for surveillance, for some variables, the kind of things. Definitely have active transmission components with these 20 megahertz, the kind of things. So it's still very capable. It's targeting for different applications. Now for low power walls, it is somehow connected with different, could be connected with different use cases, RedCap or even ambient IoT or even smartphones. The idea that in that case, try to have more like a separate unit where you could have a more like a separate unit, radio unit, which can monitor some let's say low complexity signals, such that the power consumption is extremely low. And then if indeed triggered by network to wake up, and then it can wake up the so-called main radio, and then start to engage in the normal communications. So that's kind of what is low power walls is about.
Okay, thank you for that. I think that was a thorough answer. Thank you. So Puneet, this question came during your presentation, so I think it probably relates to the system, but Wanshi, you probably want to comment on it as well, but I'll give it to Puneet first. What's happening on energy savings, if anything, in the system piece?
Yeah, thank you. So, so on the energy saving, I think 3GPP has been working on several releases. Now basically in a different various working groups, looking from the system architecture as well as on the orchestration and management side, which is an SA5 group, as well as within the SA6. So there has been a multiple studies that has been going on in the basically improving the energy efficiency of the system. But within the release 19, there has been an related effort on determining energy efficiency as a service criteria, which basically means is, a 3GPP system can interface with the external third parties in order for a able to provide certain parameters which 3GPP system can imply in terms of providing those criteria, so that the energy efficiency can become in some sense a service parameter, which is little different than what we have been talking before it's basically, which was about improving the signaling aspects and other aspects within the 3GPP system to overall make the 3GPP system efficient in terms of energy consumption.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. Wanshi, do you want to comment on the RAN piece of that?
Yeah. I mean, the energy efficiency is always one critical topic we're addressing. On the UE side, is being done for quite a few releases. Within a carrier, we talk about all the kind of different signaling procedure enhancement, try to reduce power consumption. Even on the physical layer, we also explore these different ways, like how you're going to do conditional monitoring to try to reduce the power consumption for this more or less active continuous channel conditional monitoring stuff. Cross carriers also a lot of enhancement, dominance cell, how to actually divide all the kind of things to try to improve the UE side. Low power was also going to appear UE side also. On network side, we already done this in RIS 18. Also now continue RIS 19. You can imagine the power consumption on network side is we try to do more or less all kinds of things like power domain, spatial domain, frequency domain, all the kind of things. And also now we all try to look at some common channel transmission, like this sync channel, it's called SSB, and also this if you have cell, how to further reduce the power for the S cell in terms of all the SIP transmission, all the kind of different things. So a lot of things being done for both network and UE side.
Okay, great, thank you. So I guess I was going to try and put the 6G questions later on, but I think this is probably a common interest topic for people. Probably a question for Wanshi. You described a lot about how you were going to run the 6G workshop on use cases. What kind of outputs do you expect to have from that workshop?
If you talk about use case, it's probably the Plenary question. This is the main use case.
Yeah, okay, maybe I can answer that.
Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah, so the 6G workshop, which about the IMT 2030 use cases, as I mentioned, the key objective of that workshop is to basically bring 3GPP closer to the work that has been done by the regional and the global research organizations, as well as MRPs, in terms of the 6G use cases. So what we know is that there has been quite a work that has been done in terms of defining 6G use cases. There may be some regional use cases of interest for a specific region, and when I talk about region, I am really talking about an ITR regions, like in Asia, Europe, and Americas. So, and we have research organizations working very actively for past 1 to 2 years on those projects. So it's mainly about getting all the experts into the room, have a discussion about the use cases, understand and leverage the work that has been done from those organizations. And this would be basically not a kind of a decision making in terms of prioritizing certain use cases. It's mainly about gathering the information and then basically summarizing in some form that what would be the next step within 3GPP. So, and then as you know that 3GPP is contribution driven, and when the stage 1 work, which will be about those service requirements, then we will be inviting more company contributions, and the work will basically continue within 3GPP from that point onwards.
Okay, thank you. So I think this potentially could be related to 5G, or it could be related to 6G. I guess this is a question for you, Wanshi. Do we have any view yet on single frequency full duplex and very high order QAM like 4096 QAM? Any thoughts on whether these are going to be features in upcoming versions of 3GPP specifications?
Yeah, and first on this single frequency full duplex, I mentioned we already have this project starting in RIS 18 and now specification is 19, but it's focused on the GW side with a different frequency. There's also some desire to do even more, particularly on GW side, to see whether we can do this full duplex using overlapped frequency. There was some proposal actually when we first started discussion with 19. There's also some desire to see whether we should do this also on the UE side to do, either complete orthogonal transmission and reception also in frequency but at the same time, or use overlap frequency. But these things, it's hard to say at this point whether they're going to happen in 5 advanced. There's certain interest, but at the same time, there are also certain concerns, particularly on the UE side in terms of complexity. But I do believe these full duplex will have some, something in 6G, one way or the other. For sure, I think not for sure. It's something yet to be seen for sure, but probably we're gonna have at least the same thing. We have 5 advanced, but maybe even more advanced. For even higher order modulation, these also have some discussion, but eventually, I think this is still there's some interest, but it's still something to be seen, because eventually it also depends on how practical this can be. This depends on implementation also for sure. Depends on how much the signal ratio we could possibly achieve to really make it possible to support, for example, 4K QAM modulation order. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I think we're probably running out of time for the hour that was allocated for the workshop today. So unfortunately, I think that's probably going to be the last question that we're going to have time to discuss. So, I mean, I think in conclusion, obviously, you both know this very well, right? It's going to be another busy year in 3GPP, but I think that the return to face-to-face working has really helped with the technical progress of the work in 3GPP, and I think a lot of technically difficult issues are progressing quite successfully in that environment. I think it's also worth remarking that 3GPP continues to attract a lot of interest from vertical sectors of many different kinds, and as well as meeting the conventional consumer and enterprise-related use cases, we also want to make sure that 3GPP has a leading role in the vertical use cases. Of course, the 6G work is going to progress in a number of different places, and we talked about how it interfaces to 3GPP, but also a lot of the activity is going to continue to happen in the regional bodies doing research and market fit in each region, including the XG Alliance in North America. So there's going to be a very exciting time for all of us, I'm sure. Thank you again very much, Wanshi and Puneet, for your time and your expertise. It's really appreciated. And thank you for the participants for the many interesting questions. I'm sorry we weren't able to answer all of them. And we hope to speak to you again soon. Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you so much, Iain, and everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Iain. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.